The chamber stretched out like a cathedral made of light and metal. Hundreds of species sat in their designated sections, arranged in perfect circles that descended toward the center floor. The higher your seat, the less your voice mattered. Ambassador David Chen sat near the very top, in the section reserved for humanity. He adjusted his simple gray suit and watched the proceedings below. The Vrexian High Commander stood at the central podium, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of dominance. His scales caught the light, shimmering purple and black. He was speaking about territorial disputes, his voice booming through the translation devices everyone wore. Chen had been Earth's representative to the Galactic Council for 3 years now. Before him there had been 5 other ambassadors. Each one had tried different approaches. Some had been aggressive, demanding respect. Others had been submissive, hoping for sympathy. Chen had chosen a different path. He was simply polite. The Vrexian Empire controlled over 400 star systems. They had weapons that could crack planets. Their fleets numbered in the thousands. When they spoke, smaller species listened. When they made demands, those demands were met. This was the way of the galaxy. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago, just after achieving faster-than-light travel. It had been a moment of celebration on Earth. First contact with alien life. Proof that humanity was not alone. The celebrations had lasted for weeks. Then the reality had set in. The galaxy was not the friendly place that old Earth stories had imagined. There were no wise aliens waiting to share their knowledge freely. There were no peaceful federations built on equality and mutual respect. Instead, there was the Council, and the Council had rules. The strong took what they wanted. The weak survived by being useful or by staying out of the way. Treaties were signed and broken based on convenience. Justice was a word used to justify whatever the powerful had already decided to do. Humanity learned these lessons quickly. The first human colony outside the Sol system had been established, on a world called New Beijing. It had lasted 6 months before a Vrexian corporate fleet had arrived, claimed the planet had been promised to them in a treaty from centuries before, and demanded the humans leave. The Council had voted to support the Vrexian claim. Humanity had evacuated. The second colony, New Lagos, had faced similar problems with a different species. The pattern was clear. Now Chen waited patiently as the High Commander finished his speech. The topic was mining rights in the Outer Territories, a region of space rich in rare minerals that humanity desperately needed. Earth had filed a petition 6 months ago, following all the proper procedures. The petition had been delayed, reviewed, delayed again, and finally placed on today's agenda. The human petition for mining access is denied, the High Commander announced, his translator rendering his words in perfect English through Chen's earpiece. The Outer Territories fall within the security zone of the Vrexian Empire. We cannot permit potential competitors to establish operations so close to our borders. Chen had expected this. He stood slowly, activating his microphone. His voice carried through the chamber, small and thin compared to the Vrexians' boom. The Galactic Council's own maps show the Outer Territories as unclaimed space, Chen said. His tone was respectful, almost apologetic. Humanity requests only a small section for basic mining operations. We would be happy to share survey data with all Council members and pay the standard tariffs. The High Commander's eyes fixed on Chen's location in the upper seats. When he smiled, his teeth were like knives. Ambassador Chen, humanity is still new to galactic society. Perhaps you do not understand the complexities of interstellar politics. The maps you reference are outdated. The Vrexian Empire has claimed that region for the past decade. Your presence there would be seen as an act of aggression. Other species in the chamber made sounds of agreement. Chen noticed the Thesri delegation nodding their heads. The Korvath representative actually laughed. We meant no offense, Chen said, his voice still calm. If the High Commander could direct us to the updated territorial maps, humanity would be grateful. We simply wish to find resources to support our growing population. Your population problems are not the concern of this council, the High Commander replied. Perhaps humanity expanded too quickly. Perhaps you should have remained on your single world until you were truly ready for the responsibilities of space colonization. More laughter echoed through the chamber. Chen felt the familiar burn of anger in his chest but kept his face neutral. He had learned this skill well over the past 3 years. Never show weakness. Never show anger. Just smile and nod and wait. Of course, High Commander, Chen said. He bowed slightly, a human gesture of respect. Humanity withdraws its petition. We would not want to cause tension with our Vrexian neighbors. Perhaps we can revisit this matter at a future date when circumstances have changed. The High Commander waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. Perhaps. This matter is concluded. Chen sat down and deactivated his microphone. Around him, the 2 other human delegates sat in silence. They knew better than to speak. The council moved on to other business, already forgetting about humanity's request. After the session ended, Chen walked through the corridors of the council station. The structure was massive, a city in space where representatives from across the galaxy lived and worked. He passed groups of aliens, some familiar and some strange. A few nodded to him. Most ignored him. He reached the human quarters, a modest section that housed the entire Earth delegation. Inside, his team was waiting. Military advisors, economic experts, cultural specialists. 20 people who represented all of humanity's interests in galactic politics. They said no, one of the advisors said. It was not a question. They said no, Chen confirmed. He removed his jacket and sat down heavily. Same as always. We're too new, too weak, too insignificant. How much longer? Another voice asked. It was Commander Sarah Mitchell, the military liaison. She was not officially part of the diplomatic team, but she attended all the important meetings. Chen looked at her. She was younger than him, barely 40, but her eyes were hard. She had spent 20 years in Earth's defense forces before being assigned to this position. She did not like the diplomatic approach. She had made that clear many times. How much longer do we keep bowing and scraping? She continued. How much longer do we let them treat us like children? Chen pulled out his personal tablet and began typing. The message was simple, just a few words, but he encrypted it carefully before sending it. The communication would travel through secure channels back to Earth, where it would reach the people who needed to see it. We wait for the right moment, Chen said quietly. We document everything. Every insult. Every broken promise. Every treaty violation. And when the time comes, we will have all the justification we need. Mitchell nodded slowly. She understood. They all understood. Humanity had not been idle for the past 50 years. While the galaxy saw a weak species scrambling to survive, something else had been happening. Something the council had not noticed because they had not bothered to look. Chen finished his message and sent it. On Earth, in facilities hidden across the solar system, people would receive his report. They would add it to the growing file of grievances. They would continue their work, building and preparing and waiting. The Vrexian Empire thought humanity was weak because humanity had been polite. They had mistaken patience for fear. They had confused diplomacy for surrender. They would learn their mistake soon enough, but not today. Today, Chen would smile and bow and thank them for their time. Today, humanity would continue to play the part of the grateful newcomer, the species that knew its place. Tomorrow could wait. The message arrived at Oro 300 Earth Standard Time. Chen was asleep in his quarters when his communication device started beeping. He rolled over, groggy and disoriented, and checked the screen. What he saw made him instantly alert. Emergency transmission from Kepler Station. Priority Alpha. He pulled on his clothes and rushed to the communication center. Commander Mitchell was already there, along with the night shift staff. The main screen showed a live video feed from Kepler 442b, a mining colony that housed 1,200 human civilians. The colony administrator's face filled the screen. Her name was Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, and Chen had met her once during a tour of human settlements. She was a geologist, brilliant and passionate about her work. Now her face was pale with fear. Ambassador Chen, we have a situation, she said without preamble. 3 hours ago, a Vrexian corporate security fleet entered orbit around our colony. 27 warships. They are claiming that Kepler 442b was illegally settled, and that we are in violation of Vrexian territorial claims. Chen felt his stomach drop. That's impossible. Kepler 442b was on the approved settlement list. We filed all the proper claims 15 years ago. The council approved our colonization rights. They're saying the approval was based on outdated information, Dr. Okonkwo continued. Her voice was steady, but Chen could see her hands shaking. They're giving us 48 hours to evacuate or face what they're calling removal procedures. Ambassador, we have families here, children. Our youngest colonist is 3 months old. Mitchell leaned forward. What's their fleet composition? 27 warships, like I said. Heavy cruisers mostly, with fighter support. We have 6 security shuttles with light weapons. We can't fight them, Commander. We're not asking you to fight, Chen said quickly. Start emergency evacuation procedures. How many transport ships do you have? 4 cargo haulers that can be converted. We can maybe evacuate 300 people before the deadline. The rest would need to stay behind and hope the Vrexians are willing to transport them somewhere. Chen and Mitchell exchanged glances. They both knew what happened to populations that surrendered to Vrexian corporate security forces. The lucky ones became indentured workers. The unlucky ones simply disappeared. Begin evacuation immediately, Chen ordered. Prioritize children and essential personnel. I'm calling an emergency council session. We'll get you more time. Dr. Okonkwo nodded, but there was no hope in her eyes. Thank you, Ambassador. Kepler station out. The screen went dark. They planned this, Mitchell said quietly. The timing, the force composition, everything. This isn't some random corporate dispute. This is a message. Chen knew she was right. The council session where his mining petition had been denied was 3 days ago. This was the Vrexian Empire's way of reminding humanity of its place in the Galactic Order. 6 hours later, Chen stood before the Galactic Council once again. This time he had not waited for a scheduled session. He had invoked emergency protocols, something humanity had never done before. The chamber was less crowded than usual, with many species sending only junior representatives, but the important delegations were all present. The High Commander was there, looking annoyed at having been summoned. Chen activated the holographic projector and showed the council footage from Kepler Station. Video of the Vrexian fleet in orbit. Recordings of the ultimatum. Documentation of humanity's legal claim to the planet, approved by the council itself 15 years prior. The evidence is clear, Chen said. His voice was calm but louder than usual. He was not being apologetic today. Kepler 442b is sovereign human territory. The Vrexian corporate fleet has issued an illegal ultimatum to 1,200 civilians, including over 200 children. I am requesting immediate council intervention to prevent what will be a humanitarian catastrophe. The High Commander rose from his seat. Ambassador Chen, you seem to have forgotten your place. The Vrexian Empire does not answer to this council. We are informing our fellow members of a corporate matter as a courtesy. The territory in question was promised to Vrexian interests in a treaty that predates your species' arrival in this sector of space. Then produce the treaty, Chen said. Show us the documentation. Submit it to the council archives for verification. The Vrexian Empire does not need to justify its actions to a species that has been in space for barely 5 decades, the High Commander replied. His voice was rising, a sign of anger among his people. You humans always think you are entitled to special treatment. You colonize aggressively, you make demands, and then you cry to the council when faced with the consequences of your own recklessness. Chen felt the anger building in his chest again, but he kept his voice level. I am asking for justice. The council's own laws state that territorial disputes must be resolved through proper channels, not military threats against civilians. I am asking the council to uphold its own rules. The council will take your petition under advisement, another voice said. It was the Thesari Prime Counselor, a neutral party who often mediated disputes. We will review the evidence and issue a ruling within the standard time frame. The standard time frame is 6 months, Chen said. Kepler Station has 48 hours. Then perhaps they should begin evacuating, the High Commander said with what might have been a smile. Chen looked around the chamber. He saw indifference on most faces. A few species looked sympathetic, but none spoke up. This was the council's way. The strong did as they pleased. The weak accepted it or suffered. He pulled out his tablet and began playing another video. This one showed children at Kepler Station, families eating dinner together, scientists working in the laboratories, people living their lives, building a future on a world far from Earth. These are the people you are condemning, Chen said. These are the lives that will be destroyed because the council refuses to enforce its own laws. I am asking one last time. Will the council intervene? Silence, the Thesari Prime Counselor spoke again. The council will review the matter. In the meantime, we encourage both parties to seek a diplomatic solution. Chen stood there for a long moment, looking at the faces around him. 50 years of this. 50 years of polite requests and diplomatic protests and carefully worded petitions. 50 years of being pushed around by every species strong enough to do the pushing. He thought about Dr. Okonkwo and the families at Kepler Station. He thought about New Beijing and New Lagos and all the other colonies that had been abandoned because humanity was too weak to defend them. He thought about the classified reports he received every month from Earth, detailing the progress of projects the Council knew nothing about. The time had come. Very well, Chen said quietly. Humanity formally withdraws its petition. We will handle this matter ourselves. He walked toward the exit. Behind him, he heard the Council already moving on to other business. Humanity's problems were forgotten before he even left the chamber. Commander Mitchell was waiting outside. Sir? Chen pulled out his encrypted communicator and typed a message. It was brief, just a single phrase, but it would change everything. The message would reach Earth in 6 hours. From there, it would be distributed to facilities across the solar system and beyond. Protocols suspended. Operation Manners has concluded. Initiate Operation Consequence. He hit send and looked at Mitchell. Contact all human colonies and stations. Tell them to prepare for Code Black protocols and get me a direct line to Fleet Command. Sir, are we really doing this? Mitchell asked. There was no fear in her voice, only anticipation. We're done being polite, Commander, Chen said. The galaxy wanted to see what humanity looks like when we stop playing nice. Let's show them. They walked back to the human quarters together. Behind them, the Council continued its session, unaware that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. The Vrexian Empire had thought they were punishing a weak species. They had thought humanity would beg and plead and eventually surrender. They had thought wrong. 48 hours. That's how long they had given Kepler Station to evacuate. Humanity would need less than 24 to respond. The countdown had begun. The Vrexian fleet arrived at Kepler 442b with confidence. Commander Zethrak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small human colony growing larger on the view screen. 27 warships for a settlement of 1,200 primitives. It was like using a hammer to crush an insect. But the High Commander had ordered a show of force. Any response from the colony? He asked his communications officer. They are still evacuating, Commander. 4 transport ships have left orbit in the past 30 hours. We estimate approximately 400 colonists have departed. Zethrak's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Good, they know their place. What about human military presence? Sensors show no warships in the system. We have detected some old patrol craft barely armed. Nothing that could threaten even a single ship in our fleet. This was going exactly as expected. Humanity would protest to the Council, file their useless petitions, and eventually accept reality. They always did. In another week, Vrexian mining operations would begin on the planet, and this incident would be forgotten. Commander, the sensor officer's voice was sharp with surprise. Multiple contacts emerging from faster than light. Distance 3 million kilometers and closing. Zethrak turned to the tactical display. Icons appeared on the screen, marking new vessels entering the system. He counted them quickly. 50 ships. Identification? He demanded. Transponders identify them as human vessels, but Commander, they don't match any known human ship classes. These designs are not in the Council database. Zethrak studied the approaching fleet. The ships were strange, nothing like the rounded civilian vessels humanity usually built. These were angular, covered in what looked like armor plating. They moved in tight formations, their approach vectors suggesting military precision. Open a channel, Zethrak ordered. Let's see what kind of rescue mission they think they're running. The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of the lead human vessel. A woman in a black uniform stood at the center, her hair cut short, her expression cold. Behind her, Zethrak could see what looked like a proper military command center. This is Admiral Sarah Kwan of the United Defense Forces Ship Consequences, the woman said. You are currently in violation of human sovereign space. You have threatened human civilians. This is your one opportunity to withdraw your fleet from this system. Zethrak laughed. The sound echoed across his bridge. Admiral? United Defense Forces? Humans do enjoy their pretensions. I am Commander Zethrak of the Vrexian Imperial Navy. My fleet consists of 27 warships. You have 50 vessels of unknown capability. Even if they are military craft, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Stand down or be destroyed. Negative, Admiral Kwan replied. Her expression did not change. You have threatened human lives. You were warned. Final opportunity to withdraw. Zethrak cut the transmission. Arrogant primitives. Weapons free. Target the lead vessel. Let's show them what happens when you challenge the Vrexian Empire. His fleet opened fire. Plasma cannons erupted across 27 warships, sending streams of superheated energy toward the human formation. The barrage was enough to overwhelm any defensive screen in the known galaxy. Zethrak had seen entire fleets reduced to vapor by less firepower. The human ships moved. They didn't scatter or break formation like panicked prey. Instead, they shifted with impossible precision, each vessel moving in perfect coordination with the others. The plasma barrage passed through empty space where the human ships had been milliseconds before. "What?" Zethrak started to say. Then the humans fired back. The weapons were unlike anything Zethrak had ever seen. No plasma, no energy beams. Instead, solid projectiles streaked across the void at velocities that made his sensor officer gasp. The projectiles moved at 30% the speed of light, too fast to track, too fast to evade. They hit. The first 3 Vrexian ships simply ceased to exist. The kinetic energy of the impacts was so massive that the warships didn't explode or break apart. They vaporized, transformed into expanding clouds of superheated gas and debris. "Shields," Zethrak screamed. "Full power to defensive screens." "Shields are active, Commander, but the projectiles are ignoring them. They're passing through our energy barriers like they aren't there." More human weapons fired. These were different. Beams of directed energy that burned with intensity that made Vrexian plasma look like children's toys. Where the beams touched Vrexian ships, armor melted and systems failed. Then the missiles came, thousands of them, each one maneuvering independently, each one adjusting its course to follow evasive maneuvers. Vrexian point defense systems tried to intercept them, but for every missile destroyed, 3 more got through. The battle lasted 18 minutes. When it was over, 27 Vrexian warships had been reduced to debris fields. The human fleet had not lost a single vessel. They had not even been hit. Zethrak sat in the command chair of his escape pod, one of the few survivors, and watched the human ships through the small viewport. They had not pursued the escape pods. They had not destroyed the lifeboats. They had simply eliminated every warship and then stopped. His communicator crackled to life. It was Admiral Kwan again. "Commander Zethrak, your fleet has been neutralized. Survivors will be recovered and returned to Vrexian space. You will deliver a message to your High Commander. Humanity does not want war, but we will no longer accept threats to our people. The next Vrexian fleet that approaches human territory without permission will be treated as an act of war. Do you understand?" Zethrak could not speak. He simply nodded. "Good," Admiral Kwan said. "Safe travels, Commander. Consider yourself lucky that we were feeling merciful." The transmission ended. Within hours, the footage had spread across the entire galaxy. Every species in the Council saw the same recordings. The Vrexian fleet arriving with confidence. The human ships appearing. The brief, one-sided battle. Chen watched the footage from his quarters on the Council station. His communicator was flooded with messages. Some species were demanding explanations. Others were offering congratulations. A few were asking if humanity was interested in military alliances. Commander Mitchell entered his office without knocking. "The Council is calling an emergency session. They want answers." "I'm sure they do," Chen said. He felt no satisfaction, only a deep weariness. This was the moment they had been preparing for, but he took no joy in it. "The Vrexian delegation is screaming about acts of war," Mitchell continued. "Half the Council is terrified. The other half is trying to figure out how to get on our good side." "Let them wonder," Chen said. "Schedule the Council session for tomorrow. Give everyone time to fully process what happened. Make sure our fleet status is updated across all public channels. You want them to know what we have? I want them to understand that the past 50 years of human diplomacy were a choice, not a necessity. I want them to realize what we've been hiding while they thought we were weak." Mitchell smiled grimly. "This is going to change everything." "Yes," Chen agreed. "That's the point." He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere among them, Kepler Station was safe. The families there would sleep soundly tonight, protected by ships they had never known existed. Humanity had been building in secret for 5 decades. Shipyards hidden in asteroid fields. Weapons testing in the outer dark. Every insult from the Council, every broken treaty, every lost colony had been documented and remembered. And while the galaxy had dismissed humanity as weak newcomers, Earth had been preparing for this exact moment. The Vrexian Empire had thought they were bullying a defenseless species. Instead, they had awakened something they did not understand. Humanity was not built for peace. Humanity was built for survival. And when survival demanded it, humanity knew how to wage war better than any species in the galaxy. Tomorrow, Chen would go before the council. Tomorrow he would show them exactly what humanity had been hiding. Tonight he allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson. Politeness was not weakness, patience was not fear, and humanity was done pretending to be harmless. The council chamber had never been so crowded. Every species had sent their full delegation, not just representatives but their highest-ranking officials. The Thazari Prime Counselor sat in his central position, looking uncomfortable. The Vrexian High Commander was present, flanked by guards, his scales dark with rage. Ambassador Chen walked to the center floor. He carried no documents, no prepared speeches. He simply stood there waiting for the chamber to fall silent. Ambassador Chen, the Prime Counselor began, his voice uncertain. The Council demands an explanation. Yesterday, human military forces destroyed an entire Vrexian fleet. This is an unprecedented act of aggression. The Council must understand how humanity acquired such military capability and why it was kept secret. Chen looked around the chamber slowly, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of species. Some looked afraid. Others looked calculating. The High Commander looked ready to kill. "You want to know our secret?" Chen said. His voice was calm, conversational even. "There is no secret. We have been exactly what we have always been. You simply mistook politeness for weakness." He activated the holographic projector he had set up earlier. The display filled the center of the chamber, showing Earth's solar system. Then it began to change, revealing structures that had not been on any public maps. "This is Shipyard 7, Chen said, highlighting a massive installation hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. "It can produce 50 warships per year. We have 12 shipyards like this, scattered across our system and several others." The display shifted, showing more hidden facilities, construction platforms, weapons testing ranges, training facilities carved into moons and asteroids. "These are the Titan academies where we have been training our military personnel. Current enrollment, 4 million active duty with another 10 million in reserves. This is the Luna Research Complex where we develop new weapon systems. These are our deep space monitoring stations, tracking every ship that moves through this sector of the galaxy." The delegates stared in shock as the true scope of human military infrastructure was revealed. The numbers were staggering. In 50 years, while the galaxy had dismissed humanity as insignificant, Earth had built a war machine that rivaled any power in the Council. "How?" someone shouted. "How did you hide this?" "We didn't hide it," Chen replied. "You simply never looked. Every time we requested permission to build mining facilities, we were actually building military installations. Every cargo ship we launched was carrying weapons components. Every trade negotiation was an opportunity to gather intelligence. You saw what you expected to see, a weak species scrambling to survive. You never bothered to investigate further." The High Commander rose to his feet, all forearms trembling with rage. "This is an act of deception. A violation of Council law. Humanity has been building a military force in secret, preparing for war while pretending to seek peace." Chen turned to face him directly. "No, High Commander. Humanity has been preparing for survival while hoping for peace. There is a difference. You attacked a Vrexian fleet without provocation. Your fleet threatened 1,200 human civilians, including children, in our sovereign territory. That is provocation. Your empire has violated 3 treaties with humanity in the past decade alone. That is provocation. Your species has destroyed 2 human colonies and killed over 6,000 of our people. That is provocation." Chen pulled up another display, this one showing a detailed timeline. Every interaction between humanity and the Vrexian Empire over 50 years. Every treaty signed and broken. Every threat made. Every colony lost. We documented everything, Chen said. Every insult. Every violation. Every act of aggression against our people. We brought these matters to the Council repeatedly. We filed petitions. We followed proper procedures. And every time we were dismissed. He turned to address the entire chamber. Humanity came to the stars hoping for friendship. We believed in the idea of a galactic community built on cooperation and mutual respect. We were wrong. We learned very quickly what kind of galaxy this is, so we adapted. The Thesari Prime Counselor leaned forward. Ambassador Chen, why reveal this now? Why hide your capabilities for so long? Because we hoped we would not need them, Chen said simply. Because we wanted to believe that reason could prevail over force. Because we thought that if we were patient enough, diplomatic enough, accommodating enough, we could find our place in the galactic community without resorting to violence. And now, the Prime Counselor asked, now we understand that was naive. The galaxy does not respect the peaceful. It respects the strong. So humanity will be strong, but we will be strong on our own terms. A Korvath delegate stood up, her voice sharp. This sounds like a declaration of war against the entire council. No, Chen said. This is a declaration of independence. Humanity will no longer beg for what is rightfully ours. We will no longer accept violations of our sovereignty. We will no longer play by rules that only apply to the weak. The High Commander's voice boomed across the chamber. You speak of violations. You speak of sovereignty. You destroyed 27 of our ships. You killed thousands of Vrexian warriors. This is an act of war, and the Vrexian Empire demands justice. Chen met his gaze without flinching. Your fleet threatened human civilians. We responded proportionally. We destroyed your ships and allowed your survivors to escape. If we had wanted to wage war, Commander, there would be no survivors. You dare threaten the Vrexian Empire? I am stating facts. Your fleet was eliminated in 18 minutes without humanity suffering a single casualty. Our weapons technology is clearly superior. Our tactics are more advanced. Our military is larger than you realized. These are not threats. These are simply the facts of the situation. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted at each other. Some species were demanding sanctions against humanity. Others were calling for diplomatic negotiations. The Vrexian delegation was screaming about vengeance and honor. The Prime Counselor tried to restore order, but the noise was overwhelming. Chen simply stood there waiting. Eventually, the chaos subsided enough for him to speak again. Humanity has no desire for conquest, he said. We do not want your territory. We do not want to dominate other species. We want what we have always wanted. To live in peace, to protect our people, and to be treated as equals. Equals. The High Commander laughed bitterly. You have been in space for barely 50 years. The Vrexian Empire has existed for 10,000 years. You are children playing with weapons you do not understand. Then perhaps you should not have threatened our children, Chen replied quietly. The silence that followed was absolute. Chen continued, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. Humanity is willing to return to diplomacy. We are willing to cooperate with the Council. We are willing to follow laws that are applied fairly to all species, not just the weak ones. But understand this. We will never again mistake your tolerance for respect. We will never again confuse your peace for friendship. He paused, looking at the High Commander. We tried politeness, it failed. You interpreted our diplomacy as surrender. You saw our patience as fear. You have no one to blame but yourselves for teaching us that strength is the only language the galaxy understands. The Prime Counselor spoke carefully. What does humanity want, Ambassador Chen? Justice, equality, respect, the same things we have always wanted. But now we have the strength to demand them rather than beg for them. And if the Council refuses? Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then humanity will withdraw from the Council and pursue our interest independently. We do not need your approval to exist. We do not need your permission to defend ourselves. We would prefer cooperation, but we are fully prepared for the alternative. He deactivated the holographic display and stood alone in the center of the chamber. The galaxy has a choice to make, he said. You can continue operating under the old system, where might makes right and the strong prey upon the weak. In that case, humanity will simply become one of the strong, and we will play the game by the rules you established. Or you can choose to build something better, a council that actually enforces its own laws, a galaxy where treaties mean something. A civilization built on genuine cooperation rather than domination. And if we choose war? The High Commander asked. Chen looked at him sadly. Then there will be war. And you will lose. Not because we want to fight you, but because we have spent 50 years preparing for this exact possibility. Every moment you spent dismissing us as weak, we spent building ships. Every time you broke a treaty, we developed new weapons. Every act of aggression taught us more about your tactics and strategies. We know you, High Commander. We know your capabilities, your weaknesses, your patterns. You know nothing about us. He turned and walked toward the exit. At the door, he paused and looked back. Let's try this again, he said, this time as equals. The Vrexian High Commander returned to his home world in disgrace. The destruction of his fleet had been broadcast across the galaxy. The loss of 27 warships to an enemy everyone had dismissed as weak was humiliating. But humiliation could be survived. Humiliation could even be avenged. He stood before the Vrexian War Council, 7 of the most powerful military leaders in the Empire. They sat in their traditional positions, scales gleaming under the harsh lights of the command center. The humans have revealed weapons we did not know existed, the High Commander reported. Their ships are fast, their weapons are powerful, and their tactics are sophisticated. But they are still a young species. They cannot match the full might of the Vrexian Empire. The eldest War Council member, General Kreth, leaned forward. How many ships do they have? Our intelligence suggests approximately 2,000 warships, plus support vessels and planetary defenses. And we have? Over 12,000 capital ships with another 30,000 support craft. Even if their technology is superior, we outnumber them 6-1. They cannot stand against the full military might of the Empire. General Kreth's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Then we mobilize the fleet. We crush this human insolence once and for all. They will serve as an example to every species in the galaxy about the consequences of defying the Vrexian Empire. The High Commander felt satisfaction surge through him. How many ships should we deploy? All of them. We will gather the full fleet at the Kepler system and demand humanity's unconditional surrender. If they refuse, we will destroy every human colony in the galaxy. We will reduce Earth itself to ash. The galaxy will remember what happens to those who challenge us. Orders were sent across the Vrexian Empire. From dozens of star systems, warships began to gather. The mobilization was massive, drawing ships from every corner of Vrexian space. It would take weeks to assemble the full fleet. But when it arrived at Kepler 442b, it would be the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. The galaxy watched and waited. Ambassador Chen received the intelligence reports in his office on the council station. Commander Mitchell stood beside him, studying the tactical displays that showed Vrexian fleet movements. They're pulling ships from everywhere, she said. Border patrols, garrison forces, even their home defense fleets. They're leaving their entire empire exposed. They're angry, Chen said. Angry enough to make mistakes. How long until they reach Kepler? 3 weeks, maybe 4. The logistics of moving that many ships will slow them down. Chen nodded slowly. Good. That gives us time to prepare. Sir, we're outnumbered badly. Even with our technological advantage, facing 12,000 ships is going to be difficult. We're not going to face 12,000 ships, Commander. We're going to prevent them from ever assembling that fleet in the first place. He pulled up a star map showing the Vrexian Empire. The territory was vast, spanning hundreds of light years. Red icons marked the locations where Vrexian warships were gathering for the journey to Kepler. The Vrexians think this is going to be a traditional war, Chen said. They're expecting us to defend Kepler Station with everything we have. Instead, we're going to attack. Mitchell's eyes widened. Sir, the Vrexian Empire has never fought a war on its own territory. For 10,000 years, they have been the aggressor, conquering weaker species. They don't know how to defend against a sophisticated enemy, so we're going to teach them. He began marking targets on the map. These are Vrexian military shipyards. These are supply depots. These are communication hubs. We hit them simultaneously across their entire empire. We force them to spread their fleet out to defend their own territory instead of concentrating it against Kepler. That's guerrilla warfare, Mitchell said. The Council will call it terrorism. The Council can call it whatever they want. War is war. The Vrexians chose to start this. We're going to finish it. Over the next 3 weeks, humanity launched the largest military campaign in its history. Small, fast-moving task forces struck at Vrexian installations across their empire. They didn't target civilian populations or non-military infrastructure. Every strike was precise, calculated to maximize military disruption while minimizing collateral damage. Shipyards where Vrexian warships were being constructed suddenly exploded. Supply depots that fed the gathering fleet were destroyed. Communication networks went dark. Jump routes that Vrexian ships relied on were mined with weapons that waited silently until a fleet passed through. The Vrexian response was chaos. They tried to defend everywhere, spreading their forces thin. They tried to hunt down the human attack groups, but the human ships were too fast, too hard to track. By the time Vrexian defenders arrived at a targeted location, the humans were already gone, striking somewhere else. The general who had ordered the mobilization watched his strategic plans crumble. The fleet that was supposed to gather at Kepler never materialized. Ships were being diverted to defend critical installations. Others were being destroyed before they could join the main force. The humans were fighting a kind of war the Vrexians had never experienced. In the council chamber, emergency sessions were called daily. Species demanded that humanity stop its attacks. Mediators tried to broker peace. The Vrexian delegation screamed for justice. Chen attended one of these sessions, his expression calm despite the chaos around him. Ambassador Chen, the Thazari Prime Counselor said desperately, humanity's attacks across Vrexian space must stop. This is escalating beyond control. Innocent lives are at risk. No innocent lives have been lost, Chen replied. Every target we've struck has been military infrastructure. We've been very careful to avoid civilian casualties. Unlike the Vrexians who threatened to remove 1,200 civilians from Kepler Station. The High Commander stood, his voice shaking with rage. You are destroying our empire. This is genocide. No, Chen said coldly. This is war. War that you started when you threatened our people. We gave you the chance to withdraw peacefully. You chose to mobilize your entire fleet against us instead. This is simply us responding to your aggression. We will not surrender, the High Commander roared. Then you will continue to lose shipyards, supply depots, and warships, Chen said. The choice is yours. The war continued for 2 more months. The Vrexian Empire, built on 10,000 years of dominance, found itself unable to defend against an enemy that refused to fight a traditional war. Their military, designed for conquest and overwhelming force, was being dismantled piece by an opponent that struck from unexpected directions and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The economic cost was staggering. The Vrexian military-industrial complex, which had sustained their empire for millennia, was being systematically destroyed. Civilian populations began demanding that their leaders find a way to end the conflict. Finally, after losing 60% of their military infrastructure and thousands of warships, the Vrexian War Council requested peace negotiations. Chen sat across from the High Commander in a neutral space station. The Vrexian looked older, his scales dull, his movements slow. Defeat had aged him. What are your terms? The High Commander asked quietly. Chen slid a data pad across the table. Full reparations to Kepler Station colonists for the damage and trauma caused by your threats. Formal recognition of all human territorial claims in disputed regions. Withdrawal of Vrexian forces from 14 star systems that you took from other species through similar intimidation tactics. And a restructuring of council voting protocols to prevent majority tyranny. You want us to give up territory we have held for centuries. I want you to return territory you took illegally from species too weak to fight back. Just like you tried to do to us. The High Commander sat in silence for a long moment. The War Council will never agree to this. Then we continue the war, Chen said simply. Eventually your empire will collapse. Your military is already reduced to less than 40% capacity. Your economy is failing. Your people are demanding peace. How much longer can you hold out? You would destroy the entire Vrexian Empire? We would prefer not to. We would prefer peace, but we will not accept a peace that rewards aggression and allows you to threaten others in the future. The terms are non-negotiable. The High Commander looked at the datapad for a long time. Then he picked up his pen and signed. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Representatives from every council species attended as the Vrexian Empire formally surrendered to humanity's terms. Territory was redistributed. Reparations were paid. The council voting system was reformed to require more than simple majority rule for major decisions. Ambassador Chen stood before the reformed Galactic Council for the first time since the war ended. The chamber looked different now. The seating had been rearranged. Humanity no longer sat in the upper tiers. They now sat at the mid-level among the established powers. The war is over, Chen said. Humanity returns to diplomacy, to cooperation, to the principles we have always valued. But the galaxy has changed. We have changed. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates who now watched him with respect instead of dismissal. We tried being polite, he continued. We tried being patient and diplomatic and accommodating. We hoped that would be enough. It was not. You taught us that the galaxy only respects strength,